sure if you know, but I'm a huge Korean food addict, and one of my favorite foods obviously is gonna be kimchi. I mix it with everything from like rice to toppings for a sandwich, so I really have it all the time. But as I've been trying to eat vegan, it's been an issue because kimchi usually does have some seafood in it. They do sell vegan kimchi at the store, but it's always really expensive, and I've always wanted to make my own kimchi. So without further ado, I finally did it. I made my own kimchi. It had been fermenting for 2 days on the shelf, and I actually just stuck it in the refrigerator and then tried some today, and it was super good. So that is why I'm showing you guys the recipe. I think a lot of people are nervous about the fermenting part, but I looked up a lot of recipes. For the most part, I think people are okay, and it tastes really good, and I was able to bring in a lot of flavors from the sea and like kind of more of like the meaty umami flavors without adding meat. So you'll be interested to see how I did it. So let's head over to the kitchen and then make some kimchi.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with 1 head of napa cabbage, and I'm just going to make an incision down the root, and this is so that I can just pull the whole cabbage apart without having to cut into the middles of the leaves and cut into the kimchi essentially, so you can see how nice and whole those leaves are left. Afterwards, make sure to rinse it out because there's a lot of there could be a lot of sand in the middle, and then I'm going to make another incision down the center, and this is for later. And it's good that the cabbage is a little bit wet because it can hold the salt a little bit better. So I'm going to take about 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup of salt, and I'm just gonna pull literally apart each leaf and then salt it in between for all of the leaves until I get the whole head of the cabbage. You can see it's a little bit like this. Don't worry too much about the salt. We're gonna rinse it off later, but you can just see something like that. And then afterwards, I'm going to put it into a bowl, and I'm putting a little bit more salt down into the root because the thicker it is, the more salt you want. And then I'm gonna weigh it down with a heavy weight or like a pan, and that will really help. This should stay there for about 4 hours, and if you can, to rotate it every hour or so. I mean, if you're not going to be home the whole day, I would say at least rotate this guy like once while it's in its like 2 to 4 hour stage, and then you're just going to weigh it down because you want to draw out the water. So the longer it is, the more water is going to be drawn out, and then the softer it is. So you can see how nice and limber that cabbage looks, but you can also see like how much water came out of that. I mean, there was a little bit of water before, but there's a lot of water now. So in between that 4 hours, you can get started on the sauce. So there's 8 cloves of garlic here, and I just want to show you the trick of how to get garlic peel off. You want to actually cut off a little bit of the root of the garlic, and this will make it a lot easier when you shake it for that skin to come off. And preferably you want the same size bowl, but I did not have that. So but you can see how nicely that came out looking, and now all of the skin is off. So to that, I'm going to actually add 1/2 of an Asian pear, and then also a knob of ginger, and then a tablespoon of brown sugar as well. So this is Korean chili flakes, and I've seen people go about 1/2 cup to 1 napa cabbage for this, but for me, I'm going to go in with about 2 tablespoons because I cannot handle hot at all. And then this is how I'm going to add some of kind of that meatiness and some of the seafood flavor and umami flavors back in. So I'm going to take about 2 tablespoons of miso powder, and then for flavors of the sea, I'm going to just add 1 sheet of seaweed, and you can cut this and put this in afterwards, but I'm just going to be lazy and just put it right into the sauce, and I've just pureed that through so that you guys don't have to really watch that. And then I'm just going to kind of roughly chop in kind of various shapes because I think that looks cooler and more homemade that way. About 8 stalks of scallions, so a lot of scallions, but that will contribute a lot to the flavor and then also to the look. And these guys are sort of going to be fermented and pickled with the kimchi as well. And then also I have about 3 carrots that I shredded in the food processor. Decided I was making a little too big of a mess, so put it into the bowl. So that will add also a little bit of sweetness as well, and then you have the savoriness from the scallions. So just mix all of that together because that is going to be essentially going in between each leaf. So before I do that, I'm just going to rinse out the cabbage, and you don't have to go too crazy, but if you don't rinse the salt out, it is going to be way overly salty. So I'm just going to kind of roughly do it, and then just like I did for the salt, I'm going to take a little bit of that chili paste, and I'm going to go in between each leaf, and I'm just going to make sure that it touches, you know, every part of the leaf, and then pulling it back, and then putting it on the other part of the leaf until I get the whole cabbage. So this is how this guy guy looks. And some people actually eat this fresh kimchi, and they'll eat it right away. It won't be as sour. But if you are gonna go for the fermentation process, you take that slit that I made before, and then you pull it apart so that it becomes kind of a quarter of the cabbage. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna roll it up, because you kind of want to eliminate a lot of the water, so you kind of just are trying to compact it, and this is nicer for when you bottle it as well. So essentially, yeah, taking it from the base and then just rolling up, so you get these little rolls of kimchi cabbage, and it's so pretty. So you're gonna basically repeat that 4 times. Don't forget about the leftover stuff on the bottom, and then the juice I just pour right in. And this guy stays right at room temperature for about 2 days. I think the more that you ferment it, the more sour it gets, but eventually you'll put it into the refrigerator, and then it'll continue fermenting as well. So on a cap it goes, and yeah, this basically stays there for about 2 days. And I'm just gonna put kimchi on it. This was such a weird angle to write at, but yeah, essentially that is our vegan kimchi, and this stays for about 2 days, and then you can use it for stuff like kimchi fried rice and whatnot. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this recipe, and as usual, if you want to see more recipes like this, please hit like and subscribe, and I will see you guys again next time. Bye!